Oh dear, oh dear. I think that's the thing I will probably work with this. Marvel Studios Clueless reveals MCU author. So this is in relation to that book I was talking about. So there's a book called MCU: The Reign of Marvel Studios. It's an unauthorized tell-all about Marvel Studios, and it actually says that they're basically clueless about what fans want, which is not a surprise. They have muddled their way through things moving forwards. You know, at the start, that they and I posited this theory in my recent video about this kind of thing. Anyway, is that the post-credit stingers were also a test bed to see whether people liked the general direction that they were going in, and I stand by that because they did it for the Eternals, and they've scrapped what was in that post-credit scene, didn't they? Blade, the Black Knight or whatever it was, Kit Harington. Yeah, that's gone. He's cut from that movie. So there you go. People didn't care. They cut it. I think that they did that. Anyway, I stand by that. So moving on. Joanna Robinson writes, the Marvel Studios expected Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania to be a big hit. So this goes to show how blissfully unaware they truly are, and how, their heads are firmly, squarely up their buttholes in their rectums. Marvel Studios is aware of what's happening to their brand, she says. My understanding, having talked to some people, is that Quantumania really shook them. They're shook, ladies and gents, they're shook. I'm sure that Secret Invasion shook them further, but Quantumania really shook them. I'll stop doing that now. Because they felt like they had something good, because they all internally thought everyone's going to love this. How on earth? And then they put it out and people didn't. And then they were like, oh no, our internal barometer is not attuned to what people want anymore. With Quantumania, they were like, we put out a banger. And then that's not how a lot of people felt.
They thought that was a banger?
Well, they must have done, because you wouldn't have introduced your big bad for the multiverse saga into it, would you? It wouldn't have been the cinematic debut, the film debut of your big bad villain, your Thanos level threat moving forwards. So yeah, they really did think that was going to be a huge hit.
That was actually introduced in a Disney Plus show that not a whole lot of people watched.
Like 10.
Yeah.
10.
No, I agree. But then they obviously thought that, rightly or wrongly, they did that, and they actually thought that he was going to be the big bad. I mean, still arguably is going to be. We don't know yet, but they thought Quantumania was a banger.
Wow.
And they literally have no idea what people want. Clearly they don't. Look at what they're making. Ms. Marvel. This is what happens when you get infected with the mind virus that is this nonsense. You get given a message of, well, we must promote this, we must promote that. Everyone loves this stuff, don't they? And then you put out Ms. Marvel, a show everyone fucking hated. No one bothered to watch it. So yeah, I mean, they literally have no idea what people want. Their internal barometer is broken. Anyway, culture.
Well, they went out and they went out and satisfied, the woke mind virus, as you said eloquently, but they didn't satisfy their audience, and they've lost touch with that. The moment that you no longer pursue good stories and you move away from the content that was largely accepted to content that was largely rejected, which is what they did. They skipped 50 years of comic book history. We've mentioned that 1,000 times, but it's the pursuit of a political agenda and social engineering that actually created the problem that they have now. You can't proselytize to your audience all the time. You have to be able to deliver a hero's journey, and they haven't done that in 4 or 5 products now. You have entered the Mary Sue kind of situation in every single film that they've released since Endgame, and it can't be argued. They've again moved away from their core audience in favor of the feminine audience, and that's fine. but you're going to lose the people who are legitimately fans, and a certain portion of that fan culture, nerd culture, call it what you will. You've alienated them to the point that they no longer gin up the rest of the audience. Your fanatics are the ones that drive up, the interest in your product. They're the ones that are passionate. They're the ones that'll make sure that the word of mouth gets around, good or bad. And you stopped catering to those people that cared. So now you have an apathetic audience. Well done.
Well, apathy is the worst thing you can generate from an audience. Yeah. I think they've definitely they've nurtured that culture to their movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also agree with you. I know that you said this a couple minutes ago, but I think that their post-credit scenes and mid-credit scenes really were there to inform whether or not they were going to make the next thing. And I think that now that they continue to run them and they're received very softly, half-heartedly, with little enthusiasm, I think that they've lost that barometer for giving them a direction to go. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think you nailed it.
Yeah. I think the most egregious example of that, where it's plain and clear as day, is the Eternals. Absolutely.
Well, think about how long they introduced Adam Warlock. I mean, that reveal went back into the second phase of Marvel, where they were trying to introduce Adam Warlock. They just brought him in a completely different situation because he was in a cocoon, going back into the second phase of Marvel. Most people don't remember that, but it's bonkers.
Nick, what about Marvel being shook?
I mean, culture pretty much summed it up, better than I could have. I agree with what he's saying. It is shook. It's in a bad place. It's now in the state that Star Wars is in. I don't know if it's as bad as Star Wars, but it's pretty close. And under this, like I said earlier, under the current regime there, I don't see it getting any better. End game was the end game. It was the end of it.
People as well.
Yeah. Yep. And they just didn't capitalize. I mean, when you're coming to the end of that and you don't have a game plan moving forward after losing your top two characters in Cap and Iron Man, I mean, this female road that they went down, it wasn't a mass of female audience coming to those Marvel movies. Yeah, there was a lot of girls that went there, but a lot of them got drugged there by their boyfriends, or their husbands. And then they got pulled into it because their boyfriend or husband liked it. So, when they started going down this other road of the all female, I just heard just the other day, I guess, Ironheart, the female Iron Man, is getting pushed back and is delayed now. Just all these projects that they got, even coming down the pipeline. It's not anything I'm interested in, and a lot of other people aren't interested. I mean, who's going to go to the theater to see Ironheart? I bet that one does worse than the Marvels movie. It's probably going to be like Blue Beetle level bad, box office wise. I mean,
I agree with that.
They're just they're completely out of touch over there, but they'll either figure it out and course correct. Feige's talking about, rumors of there being a soft reboot and all that, but the damage has been done at this point.
Yeah.
A lot of people have just stepped away and are gone. And when you're throwing stuff into the Disney Plus shows that you have to go watch that to understand some of the movies coming out, like that is not a good formula at all. They didn't do that with the original MCU. You had Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but that kind of was its own thing, and it didn't really tie into anything with the movies. If they're going to do these Marvel shows on Netflix,
Netflix Daredevils and stuff like that.
Yep. You know, that they should have just done stuff like that had no tie-in to any of the movies on Disney Plus. But whatever.
Come on then, Tom. They're shook.
They're fucked.
They're
done. I mean, what else can we say or do at this point? I mean, am I surprised that they have no clue? No, we already kind of knew this. The only one who did really seem to have any clue was James Gunn, and he's gone. The Russos probably be next in line, and they're gone. Anybody who seemed to have any kind of inclination of what maybe the audience wants to see is gone. Kevin Feige, as we're coming to learn, is not the creative powerhouse we thought he was to begin with. He had a lot of people to help him out, and a lot of those people he's exiled or lost. And in that, we've kind of slowly seen, and not so much slowly, but quickly over the last couple years, seen just how incapable he is and others around him are in handling this franchise or this whatever you want to call it, brand. Because I mean, Marvel is arguably one of the biggest brands in history, and they've gone from the height of heights and what could have been something that they milked for decades, and everything that's gone wrong, they've done to themselves. Right? It's not like they can blame anybody else for their problems other than their pure stupidity of deciding to A, buy into all this political bullshit, B, think the audience had any shits to give about Iron Fart or, Lady Thor or any other insert character that was taking over, Miles Morales, any of these people, nearly as much as they give a shit about Captain America, Hulk, and Spider-Man, etc. Right? Like, that's where they fucked up. And just all those things whirlwinded in with poor decision making on Kevin Feige's part, getting rid of Ike Perlmutter, all that kind of stuff that happened behind the scenes. All those things culminated into what we're seeing now. And yeah, you can fresh reboot it, but I'm not even sure if that's going to help at this point. You still gotta get better people around you, right? Kevin, I think it's time he retires. I think it's time they find somebody else to take over, and he moves into like just basically a consultation kind of role and just hangs out and collects some checks. Right? Go on vacation, make some little movies somewhere else, and don't worry about the Marvel Universe anymore.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Actually, to be fair, I will agree with that.